Mike. I now call to order the regular session meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, November 18, 2014 at 6:30. Roll call.
Mayor Archie?
Here.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Here.
Commissioner Tarpon?
Here.
Commissioner Banther?
Here.
Commissioner Sieber.
Here.
We'll now have our invocation given by Reverend Milton Smith at Mount Hermon Baptist Church. Will everyone stand? Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance following.
Let us pray. Father God, we come to Thee tonight, first of all, to give thanks. We thank You, Lord, for this beautiful city of Tarpon Springs. We thank You for our city leaders and all of the citizens. And we pray tonight, Lord, that You will bless our city leaders as they discuss the things concerning the city, lead and guide their decision making. We pray that everything that will be said and done tonight will be beneficiary to those who live, work, play in this city. In Your name we ask everything. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go to public comments, I just have a special announcement, and that's recognition of our Tarpon Springs High School band that over the weekend won the national championship, and some might wonder why we're not honoring them tonight, but the time was too short in terms of doing that. But there will be a proclamation presented to them on the December 16th meeting. You know, first it's the nation, and next will be world champions, you know. So another victory for the Spongers. We'll now go to public comments on any item that will not be discussed this evening.
Anita Frost, 901 Bay Shore. Mayor, make a ordinance that we don't have this cold weather anymore after tonight. When you watch the commission meetings on TV, sometimes it's very hard to hear your comments. And so please speak into the mic, because on television it doesn't come through loud and clear. And the residents need to know what you're saying. And sometimes, especially our city attorney, it's hard to hear you out in the audience. So please speak as loud as you can. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mayor. I did have someone tell me that it was a little hard to hear us, that maybe we was trying to do something in secret, so if we could use the mics. We'll, if there are no other public comments, we'll go to proclamation, and the first one is American Education Week. This proclamation reads, whereas public education is the backbone of democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom and civility and equality. And whereas by providing young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas public education employees, be they educators, substitute educators, higher education faculty and staff, custodians, teachers, bus drivers, clerical workers, food service professionals, skilled trades workers, health and student service workers, security guards, technical employees, or librarians work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas public schools are the foundation of neighborhoods, and communities, bringing together adults, children, educators, and volunteers, business leaders, and elected officials in a common purpose. Now, therefore, I, David O. Archie, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tarpon Springs, do hereby proclaim November 16th through the 22nd, 2014 as American Education Week in Tarpon Springs, and I call upon all citizens to observe this week by supporting our local schools. I believe that this one will be mailed. Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? If not, then we definitely have an honor to give one of our colleagues a certificate from the 2014 Institute for Elected Officials. And this is the Institute for Elected Municipal Officials Certificate of Completion, October 10th through the 12th, 2014, Fort Myers, Florida. And this is to Commissioner Seaborn. Commissioner Seaborn? Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. This is a class that helps newly elected officials in terms of getting the edge on doing their duties. So we definitely appreciate you taking your time to go to that and to learn a little bit more about this work.
It was a great opportunity, and I thank you for the opportunity. I learned a lot, that's for sure.
Are there any public comments on this item? The next we'll have a report that we've been waiting on. That's CARE ATC Clinic report, and I see Clay out there, among others. I don't know if you
I'll go ahead
want to
and
start it
bring Clay. Well, we were going to have an introduction, but unfortunately, I'm having some department heads succumb to an illness going around, and Ms. Niffin and her introduction, she couldn't be here tonight, so I'll just invite Clay to come up. Clay Austin, our friend from the Florida League of Cities, introduce who he is with him and give a presentation on our first year of the Wellness Center and a review.
So we're running wellness, and we've got half your staff out. So
Not half yet.
I
It's
knew
only
it's quite a
3
lot
out
of
of
them.
14.
I knew that. So I'm Clay Austin. I'm the director of group health for the Florida League of Cities. I met some of y'all last year, and I'm glad to be back here, by the way. I've got Don Wenders with me and Wendy White, both from CARE ATC. They're probably more in the administration of the Wellness Center itself. So I'm going to maybe defer some things to them as y'all's questions come up, but for the most part, I'll handle the presentation here. I do want to say thank you to the commission here, Mayor, Mr. Manager, Chief. Y'all have done a great job of promoting a culture of wellness within the city of Tarpon Springs. There's several programs that have come out through Hometown Health and through the Wellness Center here. I will also share that we ran a weight loss program here for y'all. Y'all city actually lost 300 pounds, so if my math's right, that's like 2 people. So that was something to be definitely to point out to y'all. So that was nice to see. To get started, I'm going to give you a little review on where we started with the Wellness Center. For those of y'all that are new and those of y'all that were here last year, just a little reminder on it. And then we'll go into what the results are for the year. And I will tell you up front, the league is very pleased with what's going on here. So, and like I said, this takes a lot of people's buy-ins to make it happen, and I do want to make sure that I share that appreciation. Just to go back, looking back, we opened the center on September 19th, 2013. As you knew, there was a lot of time and effort that was put into that, both through the city attorney, our in-house attorneys, the city itself, and the city of Oldsmar as well. And I will once again say thank you to that. We hosted an open house on October 1st of 2013. We had 82 attendees. Quite a few of y'all were there. I appreciate you coming in to do that. We hosted multiple health assessments. We do these not only at the Wellness Center itself, but we bring staff out to come on site. So it saves a little bit of time to be able to do that, and then have them come in to have the follow-up with the doctor instead of just drawing blood at a location and them having to come back. That was one of the big things we've had. Promotional opportunities at cities locations. We run a lot of health promotions. We run 2 a year within the city. Y'all's participation here has been on par with most of our municipalities across the state. So just that once again goes into the culture of wellness and what's going on here in Tarpon Springs. The positive patient satisfaction, so we point this one out. 95% said they like it. They've got an iPod that's in the office there. When they come out, they can let us know. I don't know if you know a whole lot about surveys, but probably enough to know that complaints come through there too. So if people are taking time to do a survey, 95% is something that really sticks out to us and what that satisfaction will be. It helps that we've got good staffing at the Wellness Center. Dr. Rowland, who has staffed that for the last year, he will remain there. He's got some roots here, so that was a positive to be able to help this really take off. This is the big part. So what we did, I'm going to go over a little bit of this, and this is what we call realized plan savings. I'm going to speak to a little bit about the unrealized once we're done with this part of it. These are the ones that are a little harder to put a value on. Just to give you an idea of what's been deferred to date, out of the office business, and this is your 1-year view of this, so we kind of ramped it up as we went. These never start off extremely strong, but you try to build some excitement for them, and we've seen that growth as the years gone by. We had 603 visits through the clinic itself. That was only Tarpon Springs, so I split y'all out from Oldsmar. I'll probably do the same presentation there. At $185, which is the average cost of a visit, that was deferred back through the clinic. That was one of the big pieces of that. The piece that I've been surprised on is the prescription drug piece of it. The deferred average drug spend, we look at about a 30% discount off of what drugs cost through United Healthcare. Came out to $24,739. So you'll see your plan savings on that bottom line. I think one of the most pressing things to bring up in this is that amount of those two figures down on the bottom actually helped pay the cost of the clinic. So we made up enough first year to break even on that side of it. That was a very big win for the trust, and that was a very, very, very big win for y'all as well, because what we're trying to do is catch things early and have a culture of wellness here and make sure that we've got that moving forward. Before I move on to this one, I want to talk about a little bit about the unrealized piece of this. I can't tell you what it means for your employees to be able to go there and get back there and get back to the city and get back to their employer within an hour. One of the big things that we don't talk about is the absenteeism that's been avoided on this. That's a hard one to track. You don't know if somebody's really sick or they're out sick or they went to the doctor or whatever. But I just, with that many appointments going through there, you have to actually take that into account. The other part is on the chronic diseases. One of the big pieces of the Wellness Center is we have about 70% of our population that has not been to the doctor in the last 3 years. That's quite a long time for anybody that might be pre-diabetic, diabetic, high cholesterol, hypertension, which we catch at the clinic. I will also point out that we have sent people to the emergency room. So it does get back into the healthcare system a little bit, but that's going to be expected, especially avoiding a large claim later. So to talk a little bit about avoidance and what we're looking at is, we had 165 unique patients that came through that were under the chronic disease management. We caught those with 182 personal health assessments. Now you see that figure's a little different there. We still have some people that are going to be coming into the clinic because we did another wellness screening event that was there. So we're going to still have people with their follow-up to come sit with the doctor. The nice thing about their follow-up with the doctor is that follow-up averages, about 45 minutes? 30 to 45 minutes. We went through this before, but I just had my annual physical about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't get that kind of time with the doc. So it's nice to see that part of it. 251 chronic diseases diagnosed through the clinic itself. You can see the breakdown of that. What we do with this data is that allows us to actually build programs within the city. So you'll start seeing some communication coming from the Florida League of Cities through Hometown Health. You'll start seeing us kind of running some other programs that go along with this. I will also tell you that these figures run about the same across the state. So this is no surprise to us on that side of it. One of the big ones we always point out is the tobacco use. We run a tobacco cessation program through the clinic as well, and it's not just taking the drug or nicotine replacement therapy or whatever you're going to do to quit smoking. You actually have a consultative approach to that, and the doc is involved in that part of it and being able to watch what's going on. The other part on these diagnoses is these were unknown diagnoses for the most part. I can't tell you what it also means to have somebody that is diabetic that didn't know they were to be under a doctor's care. That prevents a lot of long-term effects and definitely changes their lifestyle over a period of time. So I just like to point that part out just so you know that that's what we're looking at. What I'd like to do is just give you a little idea of what we're looking at for ahead. We hope open to open house. We had just held this on Friday. It's not that far, not that long ago. I should remember that. So we hosted the open house on Friday. We also are hosting free flu shots that are through the clinic as well. You've had quite a lot of your population come in and do that already. It's about that time of year to get that done. Obviously, we did outreach to get that part done along with your administration here at the city and helping us with that part of it. Hometown Health is actually going to be putting a $25 incentive to just keep this going and keep the momentum we've got going. Will be offered to your city's employees that come through, that go through the health assessment and actually do their follow-up with Dr. Rowland. That will be on top of any kind of incentives that the city was doing. We won't discount that or anything like that, so that'll be in place for a while. On-site health assessments will once again be done at the location here as well as Oldsmar. We've noticed that that's a very good way to get them introduced into healthcare and actually realizing, how their health is doing, get them to actually think about it and be a consumer. We're gonna be hosting nutritional lectures within the clinic itself. There's a little room in the back that Dr. Rowland has hosted some of his patients to come in and actually sit down as a group to where he's talking about nutrition. This focuses around the healthy weight program that they've got in place too. The lifestyle readiness and change lectures, a lot of this is going to have to do with probably the smoking cessation part of it, and we'll be doing some programs too for diabetics as well. The diabetic one's a strong one to us as the plan provider, because if we catch those early, we've noticed that majority of our large claims come from that. Unfortunately, if they're not cancer, the cancer ones are the ones that run us the highest. But those early detection of diabetics and actually getting them under control is one of the big ones. And it helps their quality of life too moving forward. There's also another part on here. Currently, when we find a diagnosis, that data is reported back to the health plan for some of the disease management programs that are paid for by the health plan itself. One of the pieces that we're missing out of that was the prescription drugs and what's filled in-house. Since we've had enough prescriptions coming through, we had 603 prescriptions filled for the year by Tarpon Springs by themselves. So that part, which we're setting up to where that data will actually go back to the health plan, and they will also be in disease management programs through the health plan itself. So if they go to a specialist, that electronic medical record already feeds into that, and the doc will be able to see that piece of it. So I know this is just a brief one. I didn't want to drone on a whole lot. What I wanted to do was show you the savings side of it, give you an idea of what we're going to be doing for the upcoming year. Like I said, the administration has been a great resource of ours to just come in and allow our people to help and allow our people to come through and do communication on healthy lifestyle. And it's taken off here. And it's shown not only in the healthcare cost that comes back to the city, which, by the way, was about 2% under trend in the state of Florida this year. I will tell you flat out that the participation in Hometown Health, even before the Wellness Center was in, has helped out tremendously with that. So our idea is to keep that momentum going through the year. And it's been great results so far, and we'll continue to push it through there. Any questions?
Well, firstly, I just want to thank you for the report and for the encouraging news that we've gotten after 1 year. I know that you'll be making another report to Oldsmar. Just curious as to does those numbers kind of reflect what you're seeing here? Just from the standpoint of, too many times, it's people look at government and we waste a lot and we don't work well together, but this shows, two municipalities coming together with the league to put on this as a way of trying to help our employees. So.
Correct. Yeah, and so the presentation's not much different for what's going to go on at Oldsmar, and the numbers aren't much different. They're just about a third of your size, maybe a little more, and so the numbers will show a little less. Their participation actually started off, just in full transparency, their participation started off a little stronger as the year went. Tarpon Springs started getting more and more and more in here. A lot of that was communication through your HR department. I'll tell you that flatly too. That was a true help through there, and they've done a good job of actually helping us with the culture change within the city itself. You have a lot of people here, a lot of very good employees here that believe in it, and a lot of what we call wellness champions that actually assist us with it in here. Doesn't take them a whole lot of time to do it. It's just spread by word of mouth. And you've got a lot of people here that have bought into that.
And I think that's the key, because us up here in Tarpon, we're kind of skeptical about everything. So you've got to prove it to us. So I think there was a lot of skepticism at first, but as that word of mouth came back, as they came and said, listen, I was in and out and back. Those of you know who wake up sick and need to get in somewhere, and the doctor tells you they're going to squeeze you in. Sometimes you're sitting in an office 2 or 3 hours before you're seen and then back. Lose a half day of work. And when they're talking about they're in on time, they're out on time, and of course, a lot goes to the doctor and the staff you have there, because when they come back and see how they're treated, it's not just in and out, your 5 minutes is up, talk to this one or that one, the doctor sits down, actually talks to you and explains things to you. That word started to grow, and then the people started to try it. And then when some of the skeptical ones tried it, the more skeptical ones started. And I think it was just a domino effect that as the word got back, people started trusting it. People started to see what it was doing for them. People were saying they weren't paying the co-pays, no matter $10, $20 a shot. A prescription, 25 or so, they weren't paying those, and all of a sudden, we've got to the point where I think we wanted to be after the first year, and a lot of that, again, the word of mouth, and, you proved it to some people that was the way to go, the place to go, and everything that we as a city and you as the league and the clinic as the clinic had promised the employees that we were carrying through on everything we promised, and I think that's what convinced everybody and to use it.
That part and not having to pay anything, word travels fast.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely helped.
Commissioner Bamford and Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, and I'm very happy to see that it's being used, and then and especially how it's caught some major issues that people have had. I'm looking at your PowerPoint from last year. And I wondered if you had any of the updated numbers. In this PowerPoint, it said the estimated annual clinic cost would be around $186,000. Is that still about ballpark?
We actually came out for y'all's part. The total cost was about $220 is what I had estimated. We came out a little under that for the year. Some of that has to do with how we were buying our pharmaceuticals. We weren't sure how that part would take right off the bat. As that's moved on, we've had to stock more and more. And but it did keep our costs down a little bit starting, because it's not, this isn't only the trust money, this is y'all's too, because it comes through as rate in healthcare rates.
And that 220, I assume, include, because you had it broken out here. I assume that does that 220 include the lease and the monthly admin costs and the clinic staff costs, or no?
It includes clinic staff cost, supplies, and startup. There was a startup amount that was part of that, build out some other things.
So is the lease separate from that?
The lease is separate from that.
So it would be, in theory, 220 plus the lease of 25,000.
Correct.
Okay, but that was the first year was going to be more, right? Because of
Correct. Yes,
so
sir.
what do you so this year, if it was around 250, what do you estimate it being annually, barring anything unforeseen?
Barring us adding hours, because hours are driven by participation. If we start filling it up, we're going to open the hours. But the overall cost of it, it's probably going to run about the same on that part of it. I'm not going to have all the startup costs that's in there, and you're not going to have the startup costs that's in there any longer.
So you think it'll be the 220 plus the lease still per year? What was the slide you had? It was one of the first ones where it mentioned the cost savings as opposed to if it was being billed through our health insurance. If I could just see that again. So you said so just to make sure, because I must have heard you wrong, because if you have the office visits and the prescription drugs, that's about $135,000, and it costs us $250. So where else is the savings built in?
The city of Oldsmar.
Okay.
You've got another city that's paying into this as well. So the city of
But
Baltimore.
is that so is the 250, because
That's
this
total
is,
cost of the clinic.
that's the total cost, because because on your slide here, it said estimated cost for Tarpon Springs.
Right. Yeah, and that should have been corrected on that part of it. I think when we were setting it up, that was what was presented to our board as well, so we just stuck with that number.
So do we know how much Tarpon's had to pay? Because that'd be my concern.
Tarpon has had to pay whatever the lease amount is over the 12-month period.
Mark, do you have any information as far as what we've had to pay? I mean, when I put this on the agenda or wanted the update, that was kind of the whole issue I wanted to know was the numbers. And I'm just going, and when he was talking, I just pulled up the PowerPoint from last year, estimated cost for Tarpon Springs, and what he told me pretty much adds up, but he says those are for the clinic as a whole, and I'm trying to figure out what's our cost of the clinic, because I'm very happy that it's doing well, but we have to look at the cost.
$25,000 for the lease.
And then
That's our cost.
that's it. So but then there's the 250 number that he gave us. He said when I asked what the costs were, I was told 220 plus 25 for the lease, and then I thought that was for Tarpon as a whole, as I guess the PowerPoint from last year was wrong. So I'm wondering what portion of that 250 has Tarpon paid?
The PowerPoint was estimated amounts without knowing, that was our estimated amounts. We were on the conservative side to do that, right? So whenever we go through for the year, the trust absorbed the cost of the admin fees, the build out, the staffing. We absorb that cost. What we do is we take that cost and we roll it. We're expecting that to decrease the claims enough that your claims amount makes up that amount side of it. So when we go through and we underwrite your group every year, we take whatever amount was used through here, through the whatever this amount comes out to, 135, 136, whatever that amount comes out, that actually rolls back into your claims amount for the year, and that's what we use to underwrite. Okay, so that amount was used in your underwriting for this year. That was one of the main reasons why I wanted to point out that your renewal this year on your health insurance renewal was 2 points below trend, even with that added back in it. So that's why we do that, to bring back in the fact that we're catching things early and we're not having catastrophic claims like we used to here. We're catching some things very, very early here.
So Mark, you're saying the only thing we paid out, I guess, absent from what we're paying through our insurance is $25,000?
Yes.
Okay. And our insurance, did it go up? Obviously, don't blame that on anything with the clinic. That's how insurance goes up, no matter what we're told. But you're saying what it went up was 2% less than the average increase.
Than what the trend is, the set trend that actuaries use in the state of Florida.
Is there any way, and I know it can't be tonight, can we get a breakdown of what we are actually being charged for the clinic through our health insurance premiums or whatnot? Because I think that's very important, because that's all taxpayer dollars, and we were sold the clinic on the pretense that it saves money, and if it does, then that's great, and we should continue to do it. But I think we need to see kind of where the numbers are, and not just know, well, it's absorbed in our health insurance costs. Because if you look at the PowerPoint that you all did, and just take that math, it just doesn't add up. So obviously we need to see, what does add up. So Mark, if you could get with them and just get just take one sheet of paper with just simple numbers about, this is what we're paying out through our health insurance or through our part of the lease, and then C. And my main concern is too, well, I love Oldsmar, I want to make sure that we're not financing their operations as well, because we are a much larger player in this than they are. So overall, I don't get it wrong, I'm very happy that people are going to it and that it has caught some illnesses that folks would not have caught otherwise. But at the end of the day, too, we have to make sure that it financially makes sense for the city to do. So I would appreciate that information. Thank you.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And it's not going to be much different from this, because the trust does subsidize some of this.
It's
This was
just
a-
as detailed as it can be is fine. I'll
Yeah,
accept
this was a
that.
pilot program put together by the Florida League of Cities, and so some of it is subsidized through the trust, but I'll get you a breakdown. It's not going to be much different from this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I first would like to thank you for being here this evening and for the presentation. It sounds like there's a lot of good news in terms of cost savings and preventative situations. I heard mention of people that were sent immediately to the emergency room, and I think that's important and that's exciting for us to be a part of. I also would like to express my gratitude to Commissioner Banther. I think he's asking the right questions tonight. He's asking a lot of the questions that I planned to ask, so I appreciate that. I'd like to express my frustration that we were given zero backup for this agenda item. I think the PowerPoint presentation should have been provided to us ahead of time, and I know that this board has expressed in the past that we would like to have backup on agenda items before we have the meeting, and I'm frustrated that we didn't have some of this information ahead of time, so that we could study it deeper, so that we could have a full and deep understanding of the financial side of how the clinic is working for the city of Tarpon Springs. I'm extremely excited about the clinic. I think there's a lot of success stories here. I think there is a lot of good news here, but I would like to have a full and deep understanding of the financial impact of the clinic, and I don't feel like I have that information. I'm pleased that Commissioner Banther is asking those questions, and I look forward to getting more information because I don't feel like I have enough information to fully understand how the first year has gone for the clinic. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, and I also agree with Commissioner Banther and Commissioner Larson. I feel like I don't have enough information either. Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this item? With that, we do still thank you to Clay for the report, and we'll look to you and Mark getting together and maybe trying to put together the numbers. Maybe everybody have a little bit of comfort level as to where we're at. But on the surface, everything looks good. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item we have is our consent agenda. That's minutes. October 21st, executive session. October 21st, regular session. November 4th, regular session. July 15th, 2014, regular session. Correction. Satisfaction and release of liens. Transmets Dana LLP invoice 47238. And Zenzal Law invoice 13762. Special events shop downtown nights. That's the Merchants Association. And that's Thursdays between November 20th and January 8th. Antiques Treasure Sale, Chamber of Commerce, February 7th. Authorized mayor to execute contract with Pasco County for utility maintenance. Increase file number 14008-C33, Mobile Communication Services. 10 is renew file number 140055-C-CM, rental equipment through National Joint Powers Alliance. Contract 101310, award file number 150045-N-RS. Single source purchase of pumps and repair parts. 12 is approved change in vendors from Navistar incorporated to Sun State International Trucking LLC. Are there any items that, Vice Mayor?
I'd like to pull the attorney fees. This is item 6, 6A.
6A.
7A.
7A.
I also have a question about 7A.
Okay. Then if we get a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Any public comments on those items? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item 6A, Trash Masdeno LLP, invoice number 47238. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I was curious on the first 2 items listed on the invoice. The first one is classified as general, and it regards legal research, I guess regarding the jurisdiction to establish water and sewer rates. And then it goes on to be more specific than that. And then the second one is entitled Miscellaneous Work on Which a File Will Not Be Opened. I wasn't sure what that meant exactly. But I was curious about both of these items, Mr. Licoris, as far as who from city staff reviewed them and why they don't fall under the retainer for the city attorney.
I think I need the city
Absolutely.
attorney.
As to the first one, Commissioner, I appreciate
I'm sorry, no, I was asking the city manager, who reviewed them from city staff and from city staff perspective, why they didn't fall under the retainer.
Well, this, as you know, this goes out to all staff, including myself. And again, I'd like the city attorney to explain the 2 things. I didn't, no one on staff picked up that there's anything remiss with them, so I'm sure he can explain to you why.
As to the first one, Commissioner, and I realize that when I opened the agenda this evening, that should be on the retainer, the jurisdiction on the water and sewer rates. So if there's a motion to approve, it can certainly be adjusted that way to approve it without that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. If you could speak into the microphone.
As to the first one, I just missed it. It should be on the retainer.
The first one should be under the
You're
retainer.
absolutely right.
That's the one for $84?
Correct. As to the remainder miscellaneous work on which a file will not be opened, as you know, we have a series of files that are separately billable. Real estate services are separately billable under our contract. I've left it to Mr. Metz, Mr. Trask, and myself to determine whether to open a separate file, i.e. that project is going to be ongoing for a period of time or it's not, because it's burdening the number of files that we presently have open, not just with Tarpon Springs, but is burdening our system, which is admittedly outdated. So I asked them to bill them to one general file, which is this file, where we're not going to open a separate file to sort of keep the burden off our system and bill it that way. These particular services noted are real estate services, which are billable outside the retainer.
Pardon me for not understanding. So the first question I asked, you say should have been under the retainer.
Yeah, it should have been retainer. I didn't catch that before the bill went out.
And that's fine. I'm just trying to understand. The second one, you're saying should not be under the retainer. I'm sorry, could you re-explain why I didn't follow you?
Because the billable entries are for real estate services, which are not.
Because it's real estate services.
Correct, right.
I appreciate that, thank you. I would again state, I guess for the record, for the city manager and for staff, that I feel it's extremely important when it comes to our city attorney invoices and any other invoices for that matter, that we review them extremely carefully. I don't feel that it is the role of a city commissioner to determine what is and what is not billable. And I think it's unfortunate that I'm in a situation where on a monthly basis, I am the one who is looking at the city attorney invoice and questioning whether or not certain things should be on the invoice or not on the invoice. And I appreciate from the city attorney agreeing that the first item shouldn't have been on the invoice. I don't feel that that should be coming to me. I don't feel that that's my role, but I don't mind doing it, and I will continue doing it, but I really feel that staff should be handling that as opposed to this board. But thank you.
And I have no problem getting assist. As I say, we try to put these out on Tuesday a week before, so if any of you find them that questionable, I'd appreciate this assist of a phone call so I can look at it and get that also.
Those are your questions for 6A.
Thank you very much.
And you had something
7A.
for 7A?
Yeah, so 7A talks about a holiday event type thing on Thursday nights for downtown. And my area of concern is it says that the new Tarpon Avenue parking lot will be closed from 4 to, I think, 4 to 10 p.m. So my question would be, Mr. LaCourse, what kind of, in order to close that parking lot at 4 p.m., what kind of lead time is there to actually close it at 4 p.m.? i.e., if there's parked cars in there from, the balance of the day?
I just imagine that'd be a sign the sign indicating that at 4, and again, 4 gives a little bit of leeway for what's going on, so there's still some leeway to 5 or 5:30 to try to find people and get it out of there.
So it's not closed prior to 4 then?
No.
Okay. And then my other concern is, and the chief can probably attest to this, is that I'm again receiving phone calls regarding the bathrooms being locked in that parking lot at the appropriate time, and the bathrooms are not being locked at the appropriate time specified. And I see here in the application where they're proposing that the bathrooms are left open through the event till 9:30, which I don't necessarily have a problem with if there is an event in the parking lot. But I would just stress the importance of making sure that those bathrooms are locked.
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. My question, and I don't see anybody here from the Merchants Association, is that I guess the event committee decided to have this event downtown, and I spoke to quite a few Merchant Association members on the docks who really wanted this event to go on the docks as well, but were not given the opportunity. So I just wondered if you know if this was shared with all the members of the Merchants Association and whether this was ever meant to be a citywide event, because I am hearing that it would have been, a great event to be included.
All I can tell you is that the meetings where everybody's supposed to come to, this has been talked about for probably 2 months, Karen, 3 months, or it's been talked about every week for a while. So I can't tell you what they do at their merchants meetings or that kind of, but the ones that we do jointly with the Merchants Chamber and the city, that has been brought up constantly for a couple months now, preparing for the holiday season. So
Yeah, there just hasn't been any communication to the merchants in general about this event, so most did not know about it, and were a little curious to read that it was going to be downtown.
been people from the docks at the meeting, so I can't tell you why they didn't communicate it back to everybody else.
But anyway, I was curious because as I saw this, I was hearing, well, how was this decided, and so anyway, that was my question.
I'll be willing to entertain any time the shops at the docks to stop closing so early and have some kind of nightlife, so we'd be eager to entertain any addendums to this and bring back to you.
Okay.
And I would be curious as to what or how they would look to maybe incorporate something into this, I don't
Well,
think it takes
it looks like it was
street
decided by
anything.
the event committee, and usually there's some kind of minutes or, some kind of communication, and I just, there were people who were just curious why this was not communicated with the merchants on the docks, so, because they would have liked to have participated. But, yeah, I know you don't know the answer, and there's no one here.
I don't run that group.
So, but I wish them success.
Are there any public comments on either one of these items?
Chris Rabowski, 1602 Gulf Beach Boulevard, Tarpon Springs, 34689. I'd like to thank Commissioner Larson, Vice Mayor, for once again catching another discrepancy in the billing from the attorneys. And so many things. First of all, I disagree with you, Jeff. I mean, it is your job. That's why this stuff's on here for you guys to review. It's every one of your jobs. So I'm disappointed in everyone else who didn't catch it. Because it is your job. You're going to vote on this, including the mayor. So you ought to be reviewing the consent agenda completely to make sure there aren't any flaws. You were just about to vote away $85 of the people's money without even knowing that you were doing it because you didn't review this stuff. Didn't bother to ask the questions that Jeff did. So that's one very important point. And it's frustrating that the city, I mean, not just you, Mark, but that there isn't somebody whose specific job is to review every single one of those bills from the attorneys. Because if it had just happened once or twice, it'd be one thing. But Jeff has caught so many of these. And then the times when Jeff didn't catch it, I'm wondering if it's just because he didn't review it thoroughly. How many slipped by him? Like they've slipped by the rest of you. You know, that's all our money. And those attorneys aren't giving it back. You can review to your heart's content and then maybe beg them for our money back. But unless somebody catches it on the front end and says it in public like this, and then they're like, oh yeah, sorry guys, you know, I'll give you your 85 bucks back. Somebody's got to be watching this. The mayor said it earlier. People constantly complain about wasteful government. Well, here it is. That's what just happened here. Somebody's got to make efficient government. So get a paralegal, get some secretary, somebody that goes over this stuff and contacts the attorney's office to make sure it doesn't keep happening. It's happened way too many times. For you people that haven't been coming to too many meetings or watching them online, it happens quite a bit. So somebody's got to watch them, and somebody's got to do something about it, and it is all of your job to do that. And if you're not reviewing the consent agenda, start doing it from now on. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the reprimand. Life means that somebody misses something at some point in time. For all of the residents of Tarpon, an apology for missing that $84 there. But I would say this is that for those that think that this happens all the time, then just review the tapes and the rest of it to see when was the last time. Not that Vice Mayor hasn't caught anything in the past, but it hasn't been recent. So to come up and to insinuate that this is a daily occurrence, to me, is a little absurd, too. With that, if there are no other public comments, then do we have a motion? The Chair will entertain a motion for approval of 6A and 7A.
Move for approval.
Second.
6A is with the correction, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Special consent agenda, item number 13, award bid number 15009-B-JJ L&R Industrial Boulevard Extension. Mr. Robinson.
Good evening, Bob Robertson, Public Services Program Manager. This item is requesting approval for a contract for construction of L&R Industrial Boulevard and associated pipelines for the alternative water supply project. This roadway will connect Anklote Road in the south all the way up to Anklote Boulevard to the north, providing better access to the new water plant and improving response times from the new fire station 71, which is located adjacent to the water plant. Approximately 60% of the funding is provided by the alternative water supply project because of the large amount of pipeline work, and in fact, of course, it is serving the water plant. That money is already accounted for in the construction bond, and of that, half of it is reimbursable from the SWIFT MUD under the terms of the grant. The remaining 40% of the construction costs is provided by the local option sales tax, penny for Pinellas. So none of this comes out of the city's general fund. With that, I'll be here for questions.
Are there any questions of Commissioner Tarpani?
Thank you. Mr. Robertson, where will the main accesses be for these underground utilities? Will it be at the corner of Anklote Road and where it makes the hard corner where L&R Boulevard will begin?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So like
Main
the
access?
4-inch, yeah, the PVC 4-inch sanitary force main, that's going to go the stretch of Eleanor Boulevard, right?
A portion of it, yeah.
Okay, so where will it begin?
Where will it tie in
Yeah.
to the existing line? Yeah, at the intersection of Enclo Road and the existing section of Eleanor.
Right there.
That's where we'll tie it in, yeah.
Thank you.
That whole portion of Eleanor is getting resurfaced as well, so
Right.
it's basically a clean slate for that road.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions? Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Archie.
Yes. Item number 14, request to settle administrative fine and lien for Eunice Drive, Bayshore Drive, DeSoto Way, and that Cadgeput Way. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've received a request to settle fines or liens on 6 properties that are proposed to be developed as part of the Bayshore Heights project that's pending before you tonight. The request is made by Attorney Michael Hillebrandt, who I believe is here. He is. He's making the request on behalf of Mercury Credit Corporation and Polardi LLC. I want to make clear there are 6 properties at issue here. 5 of them are presently owned by Mercury Credit Corporation, and the 6th is owned by Polardi LLC. The city's fine settlement policy does not restrict these types of requests from being made solely by the owner of the property. And in fact, most of them are made by potential purchasers of property. And so that's why there are, I don't believe Mr. Hillebrandt represents Polardi LLC, the 6th property, but does represent Mercury on behalf of the other 5. And Mr. Hillebrandt, if I misspeak, please let me know. We've got 6 parcels here, 1 on Eunice Drive, 2 on Bayshore, 2 on DeSoto, again, 1 of which is owned by Polardi, 1 on Cadgeput Way. All are vacant and all are proposed to be acquired and developed as part of the Bayshore Heights project. I understand all the properties are under contract with Bel Air Capital LLC to be developed. I have set forth for you in the report the amounts of the liens on each of the properties. Those liens in total are $604,032.50. I've set forth for you in detail in the backup how those liens came to be attached to those properties. If you have any questions, please let me know. Obviously, those histories are fairly lengthy and detailed, and that's why I did provide them as I did. The attorney for Mercury has made offers to settle on 5 of those properties in the total amount of $14,570. There is no offer on the Polardi property on DeSoto. Because the violations at issue took a considerable amount of time and effort on behalf of staff to correct and to keep corrected and in compliance, my recommendation in this case is a little bit different, and based on the aggregate amount of the liens, my recommendation in this case is a little bit different than typical. I also want to note that the recommendation of the Code Enforcement Department is to compute or to recommend settlement at 18% of the principal lien amount on each of the properties. Again, you've seen my analysis of the settlement criteria in the report. Again, Mercury was initially cooperative and then thereafter sporadically cooperative. One of the reasons for the recommendation that I'm making at 25% of the principal lien amounts is primarily due to 2 factors. Number 1, the ability or the necessity of the city to continually abate and revisit the properties. There's significant expense to the city in doing that. The second was that in discussing with the city manager, a little bit uncomfortable with the proposition that these fines and liens can continue to accrue, and then you have sort of this bailout situation. I'm not accusing Mr. Hillebrandt's clients of anything, but you sort of get into this situation where the property owner is hoping and praying to be bailed out later by the, sort of by the goodwill of the city, and get rid of the liens in order to develop the property. Well, certainly the development is perhaps in your opinion, a favorable development for the city. Fact of the matter is that I'm uncomfortable from a legal perspective of setting a precedent of, we're just going to sort of wash our hands of the liens and our code enforcement issues in order to get the property developed. For that reason, I recommended to you folks to offer to settle the cases for the total amount of $151,008.13. That total is inclusive of the administrative costs incurred to date. That offer would represent 25% of the principal lien balances, which is a 75% and a substantial, obviously, discount from the principal balances. As I usually do, I recommend that the offer remain open for 60 days, and if not accepted or paid within that period, that the fines would revert to their original amount as stated in the report. Happy to answer any questions you have. I know that Mr. Hillebrandt is here on behalf of Mercury. Now, your settlement policy does not require that Mr. Hillebrandt be permitted to make a presentation. Certainly, that is at your discretion if you choose to go that route.
First, any questions for the attorney? And then the second one is that would you like to hear from Mr. Hillebrandt? Vice Mayor.
I'd like to move for approval of the city attorney's recommendation.
Second.
Second one, is there any need to talk to? I mean, there's nothing, no provision, so. All right, with that, roll call.
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther,
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Orders and resolution, item number 15, ordinance 2014-16, chronic nuisance, first reading.
So ordinance 2014-16, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs creating Division 4 and Article 3 of Chapter 8 of the Code of Ordinances to be entitled Chronic Nuisance Property Code, relating to the provision of chronic nuisance services by the city, authorizing the imposition and collection of chronic nuisance service assessments against real property, establishing a procedure for imposing chronic nuisance service assessments, providing that the lien for a chronic nuisance service assessment collected pursuant to Sections 197.3632 and 197.3635 Florida statutes shall be perfected and shall attach to the property upon adoption of the assessment roll, providing that a perfected lien shall be equal in rank and dignity with the liens of all state, county, district, or municipal taxes and assessments, and superior in dignity to all other prior liens, mortgages, titles, and claims, providing a codification clause, providing a conflicts and severability clause, and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. Second reading of ordinance 2014-16 by title only was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on November 7, 2014.
Chief, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
No further comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Any questions? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item?
iPad, nice.
Good evening, Peter Delacas, 514 Ashland Avenue. My third time to visit you on this issue, and the third time everything remains the same. My good buddy, my Bolts friend, nothing personal, but again, I'm going to point out page 6. Very important, page 6. Declaration of chronic nuisance property. If a pattern of nuisance activity exists upon real property, the city may declare the property be a chronic nuisance. City shall notify the property owner by certified mail. Notice shall be posted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, no definition here as to who is the city here declaring the chronic nuisance, except the paragraph B above, which refers again to the police department. Again, I know the police department is important, it's for safety, but again, I'm concerned about this aspect where someone goes and says someone's a chronic nuisance, and I know there's guidelines here, but it doesn't go through the process of what we already have set up, a code enforcement board. And I know that part of the problems, and I asked last time what happened with the injunction and the court orders that went on Lime Street, which must not have worked because otherwise we wouldn't be here. Now, last point, page 13. I brought this up last time, where the city is declaring that they can put a lien on the property for above everybody else. Section 869. Any chronic nuisance service costs that remain delinquent unpaid as of June 1st of each year shall be a special assessment levied against the benefited real property as a net ad valorem assessment superior to all other property rights, interest, liens, etc. So in other words, you're saying you're first. However, and thank you to Modern Stuff, in the Florida Bar Association, in publication of September, October 2013, volume 87, number 8, code liens are not super priority liens. Recently, the Florida Supreme Court affirmed the 5th District Court of Appeals opinion in City of Palm Bay versus Wells Fargo, et cetera, by finding that municipal ordinance provision conferring super priority status to us in code enforcement liens is invalid because it conflicts with state law. Therefore, code enforcement liens do not have priority over an earlier recorded mortgage, and it goes on to describe that. Now, you may be getting away with it by saying it's not a code enforcement lien, you're just describing it as a special assessment. But here again, I really have concerns when the city declares that they can go in and abate someone's property and then have first rights to that above any prior mortgages, any prior liens maybe that the even city has or other entities. So again, I've asked you to look with caution upon passing this motion. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 16 is Resolution 2014-31, final budget resolution for fiscal year 2014.
Resolution 2014-31, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the budget for fiscal year 2013-14. That's a resolution 2014-31 by title only.
Have Ms. Walker come up for this item?
This is the final budget resolution for fiscal year 2014, where we cover things that were not previously included in the budget, which include things like grants, with things that exceeded the budgeted costs, and I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Ms. Walker? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any public comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. The next item is item number 17. That's Bay Shore Heights. 17A, 17C, quasi-judicial, 17B and 17D are legislative. But these items will be discussed together but voted on separately.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay with you, I'll read the ordinances and resolutions first, read the quasi-judicial procedures, and we'll proceed from there with staff. Does that work for you? Ordinance 2014-14, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, for 21 acres of vacant property lying in Section 11, Township 27 South, Range 15 East, consisting of 25 parcels, generally located in Bayshore Heights, beginning at Loquat Drive and proceeding north to Bayshore Drive, and more particularly described in Exhibit A here too, from R100, Single Family Residential District, to R100A, Single Family Residential District, providing for findings and providing for an effective date. That is ordinance 2014-14, second reading by title only, was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title with a map on October 3rd and October 10, 2014. Ordinance 2014-15, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, vacating and abandoning right-of-way for portions of Cajaput Way and DeSoto Way between Loquat Drive and Bayshore Drive, providing for conditions, providing for findings, providing for future easements, providing for recordation in the public records of Pinellas County, and providing an effective date. Second reading of ordinance 2014-15 by title only was published in the Tampa Bay Times by title only on October 31, 2014. Resolution 2014-32, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving application 14-62 for site plan approval for a 21.00 acre, more or less, 25 lot, single-family subdivision located in Bayshore Heights, beginning at Loquat Drive and extending north to Bayshore Drive, providing for findings, providing for conditions, and providing for an effective date. Resolution 2014-32 by title only. Resolution 2014-30, a resolution of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, approving a development agreement relating to the development of 21 acres of vacant property lying in Section 11, Township 27 South, Range 15 East, consisting of 25 parcels generally located in Bayshore Heights, beginning at Loquat Drive and proceeding north to Bayshore Drive, and more particularly described in Exhibit A hereto, providing for findings, providing for conditions, authorizing execution of the development agreement, and providing an effective date. That's Resolution 2014-30. As the Mayor mentioned, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Commission acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At such a hearing, it is not the Commission's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In the hearing, the Commission is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings to previously established criteria contained in the Code in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The Commission may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If that evidence demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code, then the Commission is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if that evidence demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the necessary criteria, then the Commission is required by law to find against the applicant. There is an established procedure which will be followed at this hearing. All witnesses must give their testimony under oath. All persons testifying must give their name and address for the record, and all testimony and questioning of this hearing must address matters that are relevant and material to the issues under consideration. City staff will present its testimony and evidence first. The applicant will then have an opportunity to cross-examine city staff. The applicant will then present its testimony and witnesses. The city staff will have a chance to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses. Members of the public opposing the application will then be given an opportunity to present testimony. After all members of the public speaking in opposition to the application have concluded, members of the public in support of the application will have an opportunity to present testimony. Each member of the public is limited to 4 minutes of testimony. The applicant will then have an opportunity to make a closing argument or summary, after which city staff will be given the opportunity to make a closing argument or summary. Following this, the Commission will consider the matter. Commissioners may ask questions of witnesses. A motion will be made and a vote will be taken. At this time, I'd ask for the Commission to disclose any ex parte communications on the applications to be considered. Seeing none, I'd ask anyone who intends to testify on the applications tonight to please stand and be sworn. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mr. Mayor. Staff.
The staff will start this off.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission, Dave Healy with Calvin Giordano and Associates, acting as a consultant to the city on behalf of your Planning and Zoning Division. I can go through each of the 4 items in sequence or address them individually, however you would choose. The first is with respect to the proposed zoning ordinance, and I would just repeat a summary of my presentation from last time, which is that the review criteria under Section 707, 207.03 of the Code, all of those criteria have been addressed and are met with respect to the request for rezoning relative to compliance with the comprehensive plan and the provisions of the code. There are only two minor corrections in the staff report from last time, corrections or additions. As the mayor pointed out, we had incorrectly identified the number of votes on the planning board meeting. The planning and zoning board action in recommendation on this was approval by a vote of 4-1. And then we added, subsequently, of course, the consideration and action by the commission at first reading to approve the ordinance by a vote of 5-0. That's with respect to ordinance 2014-14. I'll be glad to continue with the other three, Mr. Mayor, or stop there as you see fit.
If there's no question, you can continue. We talked about just doing them all together and
Okay.
then voting on them separately.
With respect to the request for vacation, again, the review criteria as set forth in the ordinance, items A, 1 through 4 are all addressed and have been met in the opinion of staff. And the commission did consider this at first reading on November 4 and voted 5-0 to recommend approval at first reading. We have added the provision, and I will make special note of it on page 3 of the staff report, that the value of the rights-of-way to be vacated has been calculated pursuant to the application fee requirement in section 216 of the Zoning and Land Development Code, and the total amount of $19,384.43 has been tendered to the city in compliance with that application fee. That is with respect to the vacation ordinance number 2014-15. With regard to the application for site plan approval, that attached resolution 2014-32 again points out compliance of the site plan with the requisite criteria for consideration with respect to the comprehensive plan and the land development code. There are no changes to the recommended conditions for approval. There are 5 conditions that were noted that we continue to recommend be approved as part of that resolution for site plan approval. The commission did consider that for information purposes only at your November 4th meeting, so no action was previously taken of a formal nature on the site plan. And lastly, with respect to the development agreement, again, I would point out that we corrected the vote on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Board. We did note, again, the consideration for review on an informational basis by the City Commission at the November 4 meeting. No action was formally taken. It's before you tonight for final action. We did note the Commission's discussion with respect to the possible extension of Eunice Drive, and a provision has been added to the development agreement to provide for future determination by the Board of Commissioners. If you would look particularly at 16E, subparagraph 3 on page 9 of the development agreement, the city attorney has added a proviso whereby, subject to the Commission's future direction, coordination with the developer for the extension of Eunice Drive could be provided for based on a subsequent future determination by the Commission. And with that one note for addition or change, Mr. Mayor, we recommend to you the approval of Resolution 2014-30. I'll be glad to try and answer any questions you have of staff.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Healy? So you're going to go next to the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Archie, Commissioners. Really have nothing to add. I mean, we've gone over this many times and nothing has changed. Would like to really commend the staff, the city staff, the commission, and the citizens in this project. I know I was a little nervous when we first heard everything we had to do to get a project approved in Tarpon Springs, but looking back at it with hindsight, can honestly say that Everybody's input really did help make this a better project. The two citizen meetings and continued talk with the citizens was hugely beneficial, and just tying this together and really making it a project that I think everybody will be proud of for many, many years to come. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, because the input was great, and look forward to doing this deal. Thank you.
Mr. Danielson, let me ask you to put your, I know who you are, but let me make you put your name and address on the record, please.
Yeah, Bruce Danielson, 36 Winston Drive, Bel Air, Florida.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Any? Commissioner Tarpon?
Thank you. Mr. Danielson, you're comfortable with the addition to the development agreement language, which Mr. Healy referenced, in the event that the city in the next coming weeks decides that we'd like to put Eunice Drive through? You're comfortable? I guess you've had the opportunity to review that language that was added?
Yes.
You're good with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for him? No.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public wishing to oppose any of the applications before the board tonight?
Harry Andropoulos, 907 Bayshore Drive. While I technically don't oppose the application, the site plan is still showing the 300 and some foot ditch along the side of my property. The applicant has reassured me that they're re-engineering it, that they will capture the water on the street and drain it to their retention facility, and that's all I just want the record to show. And otherwise, I'm satisfied with the project, and they've made me comfortable with what they're going to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Paul Lewis, 820 Bayshore Drive. I just want to express a little bit of frustration in terms of communication. I think communication is very important. Certainly in my business, closing the loop, following through, reliability, those things are very important. The question I had prior 2 weeks ago was whether there was an easement on my property for an existing drainage pipe. There was no communication, and I did find out just recently that there is possibly an easement. So I'm still not sure. I haven't seen that easement if that's on my property. So the lack of communication, frustrating on my part. Overall, attention to detail, closing the loop, those are really important things, certainly in my business. Getting back to the matter at hand, if there is an easement on the property, that certainly is fine. I do request, if there is an easement, that alternative construction methods be used to access this pipe, such as a sheet pile or a trench box technology to access this pipe and put the pipe in. This would be the minimal amount of damage to the property overall, and putting in this drainage pipe. This would also respect the existing easement and not go on to the private property. So that would be certainly my request for this alternative construction methods to access the pipe. And then it does appear that the current pipe, there's a discordance between this easement, which I haven't seen, so I can't say, and really where this pipe is. So again, just kind of getting some more clarity, perhaps me seeing where this easement is would allay some of my concerns. And again, that communication piece I think is very important in closing the loop. I want to certainly commend the city engineer and Brian Anderson for his professionalism in working on this project, and commend the folks in the city for bringing him to the table for his professionalism. That's certainly been a wonderful addition overall. Thank you.
Anita Protus, 901 Bayshore Drive. Have you paid the electric bill here? It's very cool in here tonight. I'm here to ask the commission tonight to go ahead and say yes to putting in Eunice. The developers are going to be out there now. They're going to start road construction. Within 4 months, and talking with the developers is the window that you have to make your decision. Tonight, you're voting on everything. It is so important to open Eunice Drive for the welfare of the residents in that area, because when the floods come, no matter what you do, you can't get out at Sunset and Bay Shore. You can't, hopefully, we'll be able to get up the hill where this gentleman lives, but I don't know about the backup, and I have to see when the tide is high. Right now, we don't have the ability. Eunice is a lifeline to the neighborhood, not only to Bay Shore, but from the street behind it. Now, commissioners, is the time to say yes, to put in Eunice. You have transportation fees that you can use. You have impacts that you can use. Don't put it off, because you're going to forget about it. And after 4 months, you're going to say it's too late. Work with the developers and the road construction and get it going. Let the people open up their lots to be able to sell them, put those lots on the tax records with homes, put the water lines through so it can be expanded. Do not do it tonight. It's backwards. Go ahead. Listen, I've worked with budgets in the city. You can find the money. Don't look at me like that, Mr. LaCourse. You know as well as I know, there's money. Open up the roads. The transportation modal part of the ordinances and the city's transportation dictates it. And there's different elevations of roads. We missed the point and the opportunity to put in Gross Avenue to Mears. Don't miss this opportunity tonight. Take the step, show the citizens that you're looking out for their benefit and the welfare of the neighborhood. You're looking out for people to be able to walk, take their cars to the schools, to the parks. Open up Eunice. It's very, very important for the welfare of the whole neighborhood. I urge you to do it tonight with the site plan, and let the developers, when they're out there, start doing the work with the city. Don't wait, because I've seen the city come in too late and it costs you more money. I urge you to do it. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak in opposition to the applications? Members of the public wishing to speak in support? Seeing none, closing statement by either staff or applicant.
I have nothing further unless the commission has questions of me.
Any questions anyone have, Commissioner Bentham?
Just real quick, Mark, would it be possible to have Eunice on our next meeting as far as seeing costs involved and us discussing that process?
The plan is and was to have it on the next meeting for your first opportunity to see everything, and your first opportunity to look and vote would be next week. Obviously, if next meeting you have other questions, it would go, but yes, everything will be, as much as we have, will be on the agenda. It's already scheduled on the tentative agenda for that meeting, and you'll get all the information I have, and then after that, or as you see the backup come out, if any more information you want for that night, so you can take your first look at it and see where the consensus goes. But yes, that is the plan.
And can you reach out, if you haven't already, to the gentleman who has the concern about the easement? I thought last time he got together with the developer.
Well, I know they were in the room in there for a bit afterwards, so I thought it was too, but.
Well, if you could follow up with him, please, thank you.
With that, we will look at taking all of them separately. In getting some clarification on this part that's been added, I don't really like it. I don't like, talking about the determination and the feasibility, but I listen to you and you're saying that we're not going to do anything until we talk about it and vote on it in terms of that, because I don't, like I say, I asked the residents, and I still ask them, you know, Eunice, let me hear from you. I only heard from one person, and they wasn't supportive. And I know that we come and we talk about safety and the rest of that, and I still say there are some other roads that's more important to the city of Tarpon Springs as a whole than Eunice, you know. And you can get from out there and still be a log jam trying to get out to US 19 because we don't have that many roads that would travel to US 19. So I was going to ask that we take that out and vote on it separately, but being assured by you, we're not going to spend any money until we talk about it. And I need to have some facts and figures in terms of, because even though they're going to be out there, that doesn't mean that anything except for whatever the cost is, we will pay for it. If it costs more for the engineering, we will pay for it. You know, that's all it means that they're out there. It doesn't mean that it's any cheaper, in a sense, for anybody as far as the actual cost. And I don't know how we're going to ascertain what that cost is without getting engineers out there and spending money. And I haven't seen anywhere where that's of importance to anybody except for a few people that have voiced that. So.
Yeah, again, that was the whole intention. Obviously, we've been doing this for a while. This is a situation we're going to do an off-site for them. It shouldn't hold up development agreement, but that's why this language was put in here, so that we don't have to hold up this. The language is in here. If you decide to do the road and it falls in, then we don't have to go back and amend the development agreement. We've got it in there. You have to make the final decision. Go ahead and go through with the road. I'm going to try to bring you all the information in 2 weeks about the road, what other possible projects they may be, where some of the money can come from. The city attorney is going to prepare something about assessing the properties. You've got 6 properties owned by a gentleman in New Jersey. There is a way in your discretion of doing the road to possibly assessment. He's going to bring you that option to try to bring you all the options on the road, the costs, how we got to the costs, how we can possibly fund it, and how it has affected all the things I hope to bring you. And then, of course, you have to make the positive decision to go forward, start the design work, and go with the road before this clause can even kick in. So it, you know, that is the whole purpose of this, and because of the timing, that's why I'm going to try to have all that for you at our next meeting, to have your initial look at it. You can prove it then, you can ask for more questions and go on. It's fully at the discretion of the board, and you have to have a positive vote to go forward with it, but at least the mechanism in here in the contract, in the development agreement, that if you do decide to go with it, then it goes through. If you don't, then the language, you know, doesn't mean anything. You didn't go through with it. So that's the best and cleanest way to do it, and there's no obligation on the city or any other party on this.
Well, you know, I can support that, even though I don't like even expending staff time for things that I just don't think that's important. And what I need is, what is the importance of that road versus other roads that we have? Because, you know, we don't have but X number of dollars. And you can say that it only costs 200, only costs 300. That's $300,000 or $200,000 or whatever that might be that we don't have to expend on other more important projects and roads. That's my thought as it relates to that, you know. And there have been many, many meetings. Nobody has had this outcry for as Eunice is concerned, and now it's a safety issue and all of these other things as we go forward with it. And like I say, I just go on record now as saying, when whatever comes forward, it's not a matter of, you know, anything except for, to me, is it in the best interest of the residents of Tarpon, you know, so how much it's going to cost is good. And I don't understand how you're going to have any type of real figure without spending some money going out there, having some engineering done to even come up with that. So, but with that, yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm pretty clear on how we're moving forward as far as what we're going to do with Eunice and at the next meeting, making a determination one way or another. But I would just ask, as you're gathering your data, Mark, if you can do a cost-benefit analysis in terms of what the benefit of putting that road through and having lots that are attractive for development, and what the impact fees are associated with that.
In that form that Karen's done and other things for
Yep,
you.
yep.
Okay, sure.
Well, and I just say, if you just put this down, what is the potential benefit? Because just because a piece of property could go for something, I can show you a lot of our properties in Tarpon that there's a benefit if somebody would develop it. You know, so just because it has potential to be developed doesn't say anything, but it has the potential. And I can ask Ms. Lemons to show me many, many properties around Tarpon. If somebody would develop it, how much money it would mean for the city.
And you can do that, Mayor. That's just something
And two of those parcels of land will be right at the corner of Mears and Pinellas Avenue. If we could develop that property there, I guarantee you it'd be more for the residents in this city than it would be if you develop that road out there by Eunice. So,
But again, Mayor, you're not comparing apples to apples with Mears Boulevard and the permitting and who's responsible for putting that through and the litigation that's involved, et cetera. So it's a little bit different scenario.
well, I'm not going to argue the point because we'll have a chance to debate what is apple versus apple. I mean, we're talking about roads and we're talking about expending dollars. That's all I'm talking about. And you're talking about the possibility of potential earning, and I'm talking about the possibility of potential earning. So you can call it an apple and orange or whatever you might. We're talking about putting a road in, expending dollars towards that with the hope that it might generate some money for the residents of Tarpon. And I'm talking about the same thing. And I'm talking about it from a safety perspective in terms of the dollars that we will expend. But like I say, I trust the city manager to bring that forward, anything else that we might have, that we can make a good decision on whether that's the way that we should go. So,
And I can appreciate that. But as it sits right now, we're not responsible to put through Mears Boulevard.
and as it sits right now, we're not responsible to put through units. So I don't want to debate that. We're talking
we
about
can do
two
that
roads
in 2
that
weeks.
we're not responsible to put through. Two roads that we will have to decide that we will do it. Two of them. I mean, and those are just two. There might be other roads that's in Tarpon that we're not looking at. I just don't like that all of a sudden this is the one. It never was the one, even when we talked about it before, but now it's suddenly become the one. That's my problem, and maybe I can be convinced, maybe I can't, but if it's all good with everybody, I just stated mine. Anybody else want to state anything, we can, and then we'll go to the items that we have. Yes, sir.
And just to clarify why I was supportive of the notion of bringing it up, I can't tell you how I'll vote when it comes before us next meeting or later on. It's not that I sat back and looked at a map and said, I want to develop Eunice. It's the fact that we're developing that area finally with a developer who has worked with us. It's the one piece left in that area that was not developed. And it would make sense, in my view, to explore, not saying yes tonight or yes this, to explore what it would cost us to develop that on the back of people that are already developing streets there, and make it a more marketable area and a cost that, if we go through with it, potentially, not absolutely, but potentially, we could get back if that property was actually built upon. So it's not that myself or Commissioner Tarpon or anyone else in the audience that might want to look at this. I don't think it's just picking it off a map. It's kind of making sense of a development as a whole. And I agree. I want Mears Boulevard. I agree. You can't compare the two exactly unless we're looking to set aside a reserve fund for Mears and start to put money in there, but I've not heard of that. And I just think that it would complete that whole project there. And we do many things as a city, invest in certain areas, I know things that I've voted for that I might not necessarily have thought was important, and we don't get money back on. But this is a potential completion of the area that I think we have the potential to get that money back if it's developed. So I think it makes sense to explore that this option of developing it, and we can come to our decisions after we see the cost and where it's going to come from, etc. Thank you.
I'm convinced. Let's explore it. Any other comments? With that, we'll go to ordinance 2014-15, 14, zoning, amending the zoning map. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 17B, ordinance 2014-15, vacate right-of-way. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 17C, resolution 2014-32, site plan.
Move for approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 17D, resolution 2014-30, development agreement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. Item number 18 is resolution 2014-34, and it says recognizing the members of 1993-95 Charter Revision Commission. This was requested, I think, by Commissioner Tarpon. I did have some concerns about it, but I just could say that there's parts of it that the last part that I think I wish was a little clearer, that it's prohibited by the state, therefore it's really illegal for a commission to cap the millage, but that's neither here nor there. It'll be up to future commissions to understand that they still have the right to do whatever they believe is in the best interest of the people. And the people actually don't want to pay any additional property taxes. They would like to pay less, but if you use the money correctly, they will pay more. And if you don't, and then they will hold somebody responsible. So that's my comments as it relates to that item. Any,
You want that one read, Mr. Mayor?
yes, sir.
Resolution 2014-34, resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, recognizing the members of the 1993-1995 Charter Revision Commission and their recommendation on restricting the ad valorem millage rate. Resolution 2014-34 by title only.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any comments on this item? Roll call?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Commissioner Banther?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Larson?
Yes.
Mayor Archie?
Yes. This concludes our agenda. Chief?
No comments, Mayor.
City Attorney?
None, sir.
City Manager?
Karen Lemons, I'd like you to make an introduction of the third and final piece of our plan. If you could bring Steve up here and introduce him for me. I was gonna wait on this, but this is his second day. He's
the Arizona guy,
He is getting indoctrined to us tonight at the meeting before I throw him into the fire, so, again, losing 3 key staff members. It's been a hectic time, over the last 4 to 5, however long it's been. And I know Karen Lemons has really stepped in and done the best she could, although, with the situation that she's in, but, I think we really have the person to come in as the head of the planning department. I've watched him on tape. I got to meet him in person, and his demeanor is exactly what I want. So if we could introduce him to the commission.
Okay. And for the record, it's been 127 days, 8 hours, and 2 minutes. I'm just teasing. This is Steve Correccia. We're really happy. He started on Monday. He's our new director of planning and zoning. He came tonight to watch everything and get to know you, so I don't know that he was prepared to speak, but he has been a great asset to us, and we're really looking forward to having him work with us and completing the planning and zoning department.
Mayor, commission members, thank you for having me up here tonight. I just want to say I am really thankful. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. I've really just been trying to soak up everything these last few days. There's a lot to learn, but I can't
Raise the microphone a little bit, please.
and I'll try to talk a little louder too, but I did come here because it did look like a great opportunity. It's a great place, great people, everybody that I've met so far. So again, I'm just really thankful to be here, really just want to get started and get going, and just really excited. So thank you very much.
Again, I want you to see him if you have, during the next couple weeks or next month, if you come by, just give me a holler. We can, introduce you one-on-one, and you'll be seeing him at future meetings. And again, welcome aboard, and you got a taste of us tonight. You'll be in the fire as it goes down the road, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I definitely wanted to welcome you, and you could tell that we're an easy bunch. Your best is good enough, if it reaches our high expectations. But sincerely, we welcome you aboard, and we know that you do a great job in serving the citizens of this great community.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any?
Welcome, and I also want to thank Karen for wearing so many hats for all of these days.
Well, she is Superwoman.
Yes.
That's what we hired her for, With that, Madam Clerk?
Comments?
Commissioner Banther?
I just want to say congratulations to the high school band. Again, I know we're going to do something for them next month. Beyond just being proud of them, that's putting our city's name out there in front of millions of people, and does a lot for the city, I think, is. Though as far as that goes, so whatever we can do to help them and give them props for that, I think we should. So, thank you.
And just to follow up on that, obviously the problem with it happening so fast and coming was to get them all together.
Yeah, I understand.
But the interesting news is, as soon as I contacted the principal, talked to him about Commissioner Banther first approached me, and I knew I was going to get calls from the rest of you to do this. Not only did he immediately look for a date, and because of some reason, the first meeting in December, there's something that conflicts with that and why he picked the 16th, but being on the list, having a student in Tarpon High, that night, Monday night, he was already putting the robocall to all the parents and stuff. And one of the first things he announced was the city of Tarpon Springs, and that they were going to recognize them, announced the date, and invited all. So immediately Monday, it was out to all the parents that this commission had immediately stepped forward and was looking to recognize him, and the date, Mr. Ford and everybody could be here doing 16, and encourage all the parents and the people of the school, and again, give us recognition for that. So that call already went out Monday night to everybody who gets those calls from the school. So they're very appreciative of our immediate reaching out to them and wanting to honor them in a commission meeting.
Good. Commissioner Vice Mayor?
No comments.
Commissioner Tarpon?
No, sir.
Just want to wish everybody a great Thanksgiving.
I too wish everyone a great Thanksgiving, and we'll adjourn this meeting at 8:14.
Have a good Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I'm not in New York this year, so it'll be good. Staying local.